Good, happy Sunday afternoon, January 19, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Sunday afternoon edition of Politics with Riley King. This week and this edition of Politics with Riley King, we have a lot of political news to dive into, so let's begin. First up, we're going to begin with your 2020 New Hampshire candidate tracker for today, January 19, 2020. We have a bunch of candidates in New Hampshire today, so let's take a look at that list right now. And here's a look at that list of candidates in New Hampshire today. We have 3 candidates in New Hampshire today. The first candidate we're talking about, Michael Bennet. He has 2 events today in New Hampshire. His first event, Presidential Foreign Policy Forum at Portsmouth Public Library in Portsmouth, New Hampshire at 1:30 p.m. His second event, House Party in Bow, New Hampshire at 3:30 p.m. Bernie Sanders has 1 event today in New Hampshire. Town Hall at Tuckerman Brewing Company in Conway, New Hampshire at 2 p.m. And Tulsi Gabbard has 1 event today in New Hampshire, Town Hall with Tulsi in Jaffrey, New Hampshire at 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. at the Shatker Golf Club. There's other candidates that are in New Hampshire today. And as you all know, New Hampshire primaries are right around the corner, February 11th. And also, the Iowa caucuses are right around the corner as well. That is in February as well, before the New Hampshire primaries. 2020 Democrats descend on Iowa and New Hampshire. Let's take a listen to that video from Fox News Channel.
I mean, New Hampshire runs the first in the nation primary. We do it better than anybody else with our voter turnout. Very strong engagement at a very individualized level. Obviously, we know Bernie Sanders will do well because he's right next door. Elizabeth Warren, I don't think, is going to do very well, and partly because in New Hampshire, we kind of have to look people in the eye and buy off on you as a person before we even get to the policy. And as extreme as their policies might be, Bernie's pretty, right out in your face about it. Warren, I don't think people kind of buy her as an individual. There's a lot of phoniness there. Buttigieg is trying to find a way back into the mix as best he can. I think Biden's going to do better than most people think, but it'll be a race right down to the end of it, and it's exciting, right? You get people from all over the Northeast, from Pottstown, Pennsylvania to Nahant, Massachusetts. Everyone in the Northeast kind of comes up because it's where you can really engage these candidates one-on-one. So it always comes down to the end. It'll be a close race for the top 4 candidates, and then you'll have Gabbard and a few others kind of hanging in the back there. I think Klobuchar is going to do better than most people think, so it'll be exciting. Like I said, it's a Democrat circus.
To your earlier point, I do think that authenticity ultimately wins elections long term. Not only is this election important at the primary level, but also in the general election. Look at these stats here. Hillary Clinton, 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump right behind, lost by 0.4%. And remember, Kelly Ayotte, she lost by just about 800 or so votes, wasn't it, that she lost in 2016?
That's right. We're a very purple state, and when you see these candidates pushing this socialist progressive agenda, they're placating and giving, just saying whatever they think the crowd wants to hear. At the end of the day, it's going to really hurt them come November, which is why the president is going to win, not just here in New Hampshire, but nationally, because they're not going to be able to come back to this middle ground. No one's going to buy it. Not to mention, come this summer, I believe you're going to get the bloodiest knockdown, drag-out, WWE-style Democrat convention, where you're going to get these social progressives who have no ability to compromise. It's the party of me, trying to figure out how they wedge themselves against the more moderate candidates. It's grab the popcorn. It's going to be fun to watch.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report from Fox News Channel. presidential candidates among hundreds attending women's marches in New Hampshire, and that was yesterday. Let's take a listen to that video and that report from WMUR News 9, Siobhan Lopez.
This economy is not working for most of us. There is not one county in the United States of America where someone working full-time at the minimum wage can afford a two-bedroom apartment. The biggest problem in our economy is simple. People are not getting paid enough.
Vote matters.
Calling for equal rights for all, hundreds gather at the State House in Concord for the Women's March, an annual gathering across the country since President Donald Trump's 2017 inauguration.
Young women today should know that it's been throughout history. It's not just a modern concept of women standing up, and it has religious roots, and I think that's an important message as well.
Presidential hopefuls from both sides of the aisle spending time here at the rally, meeting with voters.
This is my daughter, Caroline.
Colorado Senator Michael Bennet introduces his oldest daughter as the Democrat engages voters on women's issues.
I will fight to protect women's right to choose. I will appoint judges that will do the same. We'll have a Justice Department that fights for them.
Many of us independents really appreciate it.
Republican Bill Weld calls himself the alternative to Donald Trump. As governor of Massachusetts, his cabinet was mostly women.
It's not just the reproductive rights. It's women in the workforce. It's women in government. It's women in foreign policy.
We want a government that believes in compassion.
At the march in Portsmouth, Democratic Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders addresses the crowd.
We're going to end the disgrace of women making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. Equal pay for equal work.
Siobhan Lopez, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. House submits summary of cases for Senate impeachment trial. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
The rapidly approaching Senate impeachment trial, the House submitting a summary of their case against President Trump a short time ago. This as new documents are released that Democrats say shed light on links between Lev Parnas and the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, and raise new questions about a vocal supporter of the president throughout this whole process, Congressman Devin Nunes. ABC's David Wright has more tonight from Florida.
Tonight, in a 60-page legal brief summarizing their case, House Democrats say President Trump abandoned his oath to faithfully execute the laws and betrayed his public trust.
President Trump thus warrants impeachment and trial, removal from office, and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States.
Ahead of tonight's deadline, the House Judiciary Committee also released new documents showing frequent contact between an associate of Rudy Giuliani, Lev Parnas, and Derek Harvey, an aide to Congressman Devin Nunes. Nunes was the ranking Republican at last year's House impeachment hearings and a vocal supporter of the president's.
Nothing we have heard establishes a claim that the president acted improperly in his dealings with Ukraine.
I was in shock when I was watching the hearings and when I saw Devin Nunes sitting up there.
Parnas, now under indictment for campaign finance violations, told MSNBC Nunes was fully aware of the effort to push Ukraine to dig up dirt on the Bidens.
That's scary because, he was sitting there and making all these statements and all that when he knew very well that he knew what was going on.
President Trump has beefed up his legal team ahead of next week's trial, adding former independent counsel Ken Starr and former Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz to his defense team.
I'm an advocate, not a witness, and I'm advocating against impeachment.
The odds are stacked against the Democrats in the Senate, where Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has yet to detail rules for the trial. Republicans control more than half the seats. Unless 4 Republicans break ranks, there may not even be any additional witnesses.
I'd like to see these witnesses, these documents, and the ability of both House and the president's lawyers to cross-examine whatever witnesses that we've got.
Tonight, just a short while ago, the president's lawyers filed their first formal response to the 2 articles of impeachment, a 6-page letter forcefully denying the charges as unconstitutional and calling the effort to remove Trump dangerous. Tom?
David Wright with that new development tonight.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this edition of Politics with Riley King, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your Sunday, everyone, and I'll see you back here next Sunday, right here, for another edition of Politics with Riley King. And have a great week, everyone. Goodbye, everyone.